It's time to talk about your busy brain and get your busy brain score. And you will find out on today's podcast that I'm an uncultured white guy, that butter chicken is not a traditional Indian dish, and Romie, our homie, the incredible Dr. Romie, who's our auntie, who's now like my new BFF, puts me completely in my place, but also is an absolute genius, heart-centered entrepreneur, as well as like 3 board-certified doctor who cares about people's health, who cares about their brains, and who cares about empowering them to have the tools to be the best version of themselves in a world where most people gate access to health, most people gate access to their brain care, and she is an absolute amazing, incredible person. And on today's show, we talk about a digital detox and scheduling moments of stillness and presence to help you manage your busy brain. We talk about how to get your busy brain score, which I took her test and the results were quite shocking as I've navigated a lot of these challenges. We talk about intuitive eating and scheduling comfort foods and how that can be a part of the healing process. The busy brain test, which helps you identify if you have a busy brain, where on the spectrum that you land, as well as exactly what to do with tangible micro habits and not big swings. I mean, one thing at a time that can get you thriving, sleeping better, and performing as your best as an entrepreneur. We talk about and open with the stress success cycle and how it's an old paradigm that needs to be replaced and completely eradicated from our planet, and how busy brain is characterized with a lot of things that are mislabeled, which is anxiety, adult-onset ADHD, and insomnia. And this woman is a gift to this world to spend her entire life being the educated, powerful doctor that she is, and taking all of this and sharing it with us to genuinely help the masses. And I believe in her, I believe in her mission, and I'm honored to have her on the show. So without further ado, let's get into the episode with Dr. Romie, our homie. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Mind of George show. And I'm just going to say this in the forefront. Buckle your seatbelt, get ready for the ride, because I feel like we're about to be taken to church, because every ounce of my geeky brain and everything I've ever struggled with as an entrepreneur is about to be handled. And I can't even question any of it, from 2 decades of experience to a doctor to just the wellness queen, the brain shift movement, neurology, integrative medicine, mindfulness, and the most beautiful, calming, present energy that I've ever experienced is joining me today. So Dr. Romie, thank you so much for being here and coming on the show.
Oh, George, thank you for that. Hi, I'm like the Indian aunties in my brain are like, hi, you're making us blush, and hi. And thank the listeners. In today's world, time is our most valuable currency, and I don't take for granted that you've put George and I between your ears, and so allow us to be of service in these next few minutes with you.
Oh, now you're speaking my love language. This might just turn into a podcast of me complimenting you the whole time and have no substance whatsoever, because
No,
I
let's
could
not do
have
that. No,
I
let's
could
not.
have not hit record and just talked to you all day. And so
Same,
I
same. I
yeah,
needed this convo. Like my brain needed this conversation today too. So thank you.
oh, of course. I'm honored. And for everybody listening too, I'm like beyond geeky to get into this, because she has a book that's been out. And by the way, congratulations early on becoming a USA Today bestseller. But I feel like you speak the magic language of entrepreneurs that is breaking my brain, that I've been in this for almost 2 decades like you. And there is this massive culture that I feel like is finally breaking down. And you wrote a book that basically is going to dissipate most of it, called The Busy Brain Cure. But we live in this world where it's like we celebrate hustle, we celebrate grind, we celebrate busy. And you've experienced a lot of this. And the first thing that I saw, and I was like, please give it to us, is this stress success cycle, because it feels like this never-ending trap that people get stuck into. And so I'm just going to shut up, and I would love for you to break it down and bring us to
Yeah.
church on the stress and success cycle.
Okay, I'm about to shock you right now because I'm just going to say this is I ain't here to tell anybody, oh, just eat berries and breathe and let's look at more Instagram reels of puppies and unicorns. Everything is going to be just fine. Listen, if one more person had told me to slow down, or any of the type A, success driven, high performing professionals I serve as a living, entrepreneurs, executives, one more person says, slow down, go with the flow. What are we going to do? We're going to run over them with our wearable tech and our designer shoes. So I'm not here today to strip you of your dreams or anybody that's listening. You and I are the change makers of the world. We have been endowed as leaders, as entrepreneurs, with skills and gift and wisdom in the service of others. If you and I are this certain breed, and I think most other people listening, is when our brains are on, we can achieve more in a single day than the average worker in 2 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm here to say, I want you to succeed without living on the edge of burnout, without living on the edge of stress. The stress success cycle is an old paradigm. The old paradigm was pick a goal, fake it till you make it. Okay. And fake it till you make it is for those of us that grew up in the life listening to record albums and cassette tapes. You and I both, you were just that cooler kid in high school than I was, George, right? I was the
No, I
geek nobody
wasn't.
wanted to talk to. No, you weren't?
No, I just so you know, I was the bullied, front teeth knocked out 3 times, and so I was the trying to hide, but it made me an incredible entrepreneur too, though.
Same. You and I, we would have been friends because we were probably hiding in the same spot in this
Yes,
different
girl, we would
schools.
have. Yes,
We
we would have.
totally would have. Same, same. It was because I would open up a yellow lunchbox with that had Snoopy on the cover, even all the way through middle school, and the aroma of Indian food would go out, right? And so that was it. But back in those days, there was this toxic way of thinking called "fake it till you make it,"
Hmm.
and in today's world, it's put a filter on it and splice it up and make it look pretty for Instagram and TikTok.
Hmm.
You know, that fake it till you make it or put a filter on it doesn't work anymore, because what that means is you've set a goal and your brain and your time schedule is going to stress out until you achieve it. You get that dopamine high. Yes, I published a book. Yes, I knocked out 17 emails, whatever it is. And then, like a drug addict, you come crashing down and you're like, what's missing? I thought I'd be happy. I hit the bestseller list. I knocked out, I have inbox zero. What's wrong? And then you look for the next thing to do and you stress yourself out until you get there, right? When you say, I know my brain score, I have a busy brain, I'm going to choose to brain shift, you're actually focused on what it is in your hopes and your desires, this idea of what do you hope for, that turns into agency and goals that you've set for yourself, and then you execute.
You, by the way, are speaking my love language. Agency, endowment, alignment at the deepest level. Like, I am blessed that this conversation is
Yeah.
happening
But it
because
doesn't have to be all woo woo with crystals.
no,
Like, I'm here to say there's a science. Let's break it down. Let's empower other leaders, other entrepreneurs. The world needs change right now, but we can't do
yeah.
it if we got a busy brain.
Yeah, and God, I'm so excited to unpack this because like you hit on so many things that resonate so deeply with me because even deeper than that fake it till you make it is we're surrounded by all these people that everybody's supposed to fit in this box or this is what you're supposed to look like with work or you have to be in box zero to be productive. Like if you saw the sticky notes shroud over my desk right now on like my neurodivergent brain of like I know they make no sense to you whatsoever, but I see them and I'm like, I'll do that, I'll move that later. But these boxes that people fall into end up preventing them from really feeling deeply aligned and empowered to do what they want because it doesn't look this person's way or here's my model or here's my thing and even hearing you speak about it at the deepest level of alignment, I ended up with adrenal fatigue and I had to like disappear for 18 months because like it was sleeping 14 hours a day because I grinded myself. I took that Marine mentality, 13 years in the Marine Corps, and I was like, oh, let's go be an entrepreneur. And it became my new addiction. And
Mhm.
so I, number one, and I'm just genuinely innately curious because in your position, in your expertise, in your leadership in doing this, you also had a pretty pivotal moment that started to lead you to this clarity. And I feel like I would love to hear it because it would help relate to so many
Yeah.
things because
Yeah.
none of us are immune to this.
We aren't, I started, first of all, my journey. This is such a safe space to have conversations these days, podcasts like yours, social media channels. I'm so thankful for that as a doctor. When I tell you this story, this was in the days before TikTok or Instagram. You weren't allowed to utter the words mental health, even in the medical field. I'm a triple board certified physician. I was raised on success, on Asian excellence. I'm a daughter of South Asian immigrants. English is my third language. I am the firstborn child. My dad's prayer over me in the newborn nursery when I was born was, we have one doctor and she will become a doctor. To anybody that would listen, it was final. And it was my mother and my aunties that executed on that plan, right? And I entered neurology at a time where less than 5% of brain doctors in America were women. I loved my job. I excelled at my job. I was not only seeing patients, I was doing research on women's hormones and the brain and teaching medical students. And I was on that stress success cycle. Let me just close out my charts for the day. Let me just get this one more research grant in. And when I couldn't cope, my addiction was shopping for designer labels. And I couldn't understand why I was perfect on the outside from head to toe, but inside, George, somebody else had the remote control to my brain.
Yeah.
And I had a therapist. I had to go in secret because when you're a doctor and you can't go to a therapist, if they found out, I had to pay cash. I had to use a pseudonym. And it still wasn't helping. I was like, something deeper is going on. Well, my TED talk, and we'll put it in your show notes, that's gone viral now from a decade ago. I started to have chest pain. It was responsible. I went to the doctor, and what did they say? Oh, you're like every other stressed out junior faculty member coming in here. You need to give up your 3 favorite food groups: chocolate, wine, and coffee. And I'm thinking, oh, hell, how am I going to succeed at anything, and acquire more titles and the labels and awards and achievements? And I listened and I took the antibiotics and the antacids. It didn't work. So I went back to the chocolate. Like, we got to cope. Well, it turns out me being on this chronic stress cycle, and we'll break down the science in a few minutes here. I learned the hard way that chronic stress will cause physical disease. Chronic stress can kill you. It almost killed me, and I'm a doctor, and I should have known better. In 2010, I ended up in life-saving surgery. They removed precancerous lesions, and I was laying in the hospital bed, George. I kid you not, going, good God, nothing I've learned in medical school is going to help me now. I don't know what to do. Jimmy Choo ain't going to help. Louis Vuitton ain't going to help. La Perla isn't here to help. Like, all the titles and the stuff I collected is not going to help me.
This hits so deeply, and I'm probably going to break down in tears, but I just remember, and I rant about this all the time. I have so many entrepreneurs that come to me as a coach and as clients, and I ask them what they want, and they always say the same thing. And I'm like, more time, more money, and more freedom. And I was like, yes, but if I gave it to you right now, you wouldn't even know how to handle it because you're just checking these boxes. And by the time you get there, there's going to be no life left to live to enjoy every moment of it. And I also just want to applaud you. And I feel it so deeply, and I just thank you for your humility, because Solomon's paradox is real, and it's something I fall into on my own side quite often, and I just appreciate your humility and your vulnerability and your courage to own, I'm a doctor, and I am, a faculty member and 3 board certified, and boom, and none of us are immune to this, but at the deepest level, our health is the greatest asset that we have. And I feel like this conversation is one of the ones that really is a presence pill for people of what are we doing? Yeah. What are we doing? And what's the deepest level to doing this and being unattached to really honor and recognize that there isn't this finish line. It's this place where we get to honor now and then choose where we spend our energy and our time, so it's worth it. And I applaud you for sharing that and saying that. And I am innately curious, because I feel like chronic stress and what you just referenced, the science behind it, I'm just like a liability over here who picks up half-witted science and runs on great intentions, but you have the knowledge and the know-how to back it up. And I'm going to be like, girl, I'm going to reference you forever. So can you give me...
God, I'm so honored. Thank you. Yeah. Well, let's break it down. Tell me what you need to know to empower the people you serve. It's an honor to come meet all of you through your podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I think really, I think for me, and a lot of people on the podcast know this, but like I had 7 traumatic brain injuries in
Yeah.
3 years. I had bleeding on my brain, fluid on my brain, and it almost killed me after being in Afghanistan and everything else. But I feel like just like you referenced before, mental health and brain health. We have Dr. Daniel Amen and my dear friend Jim Quick and all these incredible people, but I always feel like some of that information is so like over my head and over
Mm,
so many people's heads to where
okay.
it's almost difficult to see ourselves in it. And
Yeah.
I know with you having this background, like just anything that can empower people to understand like what's happening on their brain level when it comes to these stressors or when we're checking these boxes, just to give us a
Okay.
permission slip and some
It
energy
is.
and
Okay.
clarity to be able to change.
Perfect. I got that. So one thing first, really bless you for your service, and you truly have sacrificed your brain and your family and well-being to serve. And from that, I'll say, I'm not George's doctor. I have to say this as a licensed medical
Yes, you do.
practitioner, board certified, and anything I'm about to say is just your education. Please talk to your healthcare provider. George, your situation, and anybody listening that has had a traumatic brain injury or a lesion in their brain, um, that is a little different because there's an actual structural change that's
Hmm.
happened, right? Some of the things I'm going to go over with you are true, but I would double and triple click down on your case, looking at your brain scans and the needs and the functions. And you're working with great neuroscientists and MD
Hmm.
colleagues, but I want to break it down for the everyday person because I don't want someone to think, okay, well, I don't have a head injury like George and I didn't go through life saving surgery like Romie. This isn't for me. This is absolutely for you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to backtrack and say this is being under chronic stress is not normal.
Hmm.
Chronic stress is different than acute stress. Acute stress is the nerves you have when you're about to go on a TV interview or give a presentation at work, or your boss is going to open up the quarterly sales report, right? It lasts minutes to an hour. That's about it. But when you're under chronic stress, it means, like you said, you're stuck on the stress success cycle. So you're chronically stressed and something may be typically falling apart in your background, your health, your relationship, whatever it may be, your job. So you're under chronic stress. We now know that chronic stress causes neuroinflammation, a particular pattern of inflammation in your brain in a particular area of your brain that I'm going to break down in a second. This is really important because all that nonsense that Auntie is seeing on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, here are 3 tips to bust your stress. They don't work anymore. Most of that is like outdated brain science, is based on acute stress. And nobody wants to hear eat berries, breathe, and bye, girl. No, 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 no. So let's take that. So we're under chronic stress and people don't realize that your spiritual alignment will first come. Something in your gut instinct is telling you, I shouldn't be at this job. I just took on the wrong project this quarter as an entrepreneur. But you keep pushing, stress success cycle. Then the mental health symptoms start, and most people even ignore them, George. Oh, it's normal not to be sleeping, to have a little anxiety. I'm under stress. Everybody on Instagram is. Then the physical stuff happens. Why does this happen? The neuroinflammation under chronic stress, when you have a busy brain, hits an area of the brain known as your hypothalamus. I call it the airport traffic control tower of your brain. So, George, I really kind of stink at geography. I'm a STEMinist. Uh, you told me right now you're in Montana. What is the closest airport to you in
Well, it's
Montana?
10 minutes away, Kalispell Airport.
Kalispell Airport. Okay, so
Yeah.
if there is, I don't even know where that is. If anybody knows where it is, you can Instagram poor Dr. Romie and send me a map or the airport code because I fly a lot and I don't know where that is. But okay,
FCA is for the airport code, and when you come visit the beautiful mountains, I'll make sure you
yes,
know where it is.
amazing. Okay, so if there is a thunderstorm, the airport traffic control tower, there's going to get a signal from the FAA to shut down any operations on the ground. No plane can take off and no plane can land. Well, the problem isn't only there in the beautiful mountains of Montana. The problem is also all the incoming and outgoing flights. So you connect to Denver, Chicago O'Hare,
Salt Lake.
Salt Lake City, right?
Yeah.
So now there's congestion and flight delays in Salt Lake. Now imagine a bigger airport like Atlanta Hartsfield Jackson Airport. I use this
Yeah.
in chapter 1 of my book. Delta Airlines gave me a behind the scene tour of
Oh,
operations there. It is the busiest airport in the world post pandemic. And when a flight comes through, within seconds, flights are now canceled or delayed when a storm comes through in New York, LA, Hong Kong, Dubai, London. Our brain works the same way. Chronic stress, I'm going to add one more thing to it. Like I need to finish this tax form for the accountant. It'll tip you over the edge, and it's like a storm came through, and it will start to shut down appropriate functioning of your mood, of your memory, of your sleep, of your digestion, of your hormones. And then you're wondering, you thought you were fine. You went to the primary care doctor just to get a refill of, birth control or executive physical for your life insurance. And they're telling you got high blood pressure and diabetes. Where did that come from? This is why I hate the healthcare system. No, man, that's the chronic stress, brother. And that's what it does. Busy brain is a particular pattern that I research because I started to tell this story after my TED talk, and I was teaching companies to meditate and be mindful. And something was a little off, you know? Um, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's other people who feel like who has the remote control to my brain because I don't.
mm-hmm.
And then I started to notice a busy brain is these three symptoms, and you'll help me unpack it.
Yeah.
When that neuroinflammation hits the airport traffic control tower of the brain and you're under chronic stress, three things happen. We get anxiety, adult onset ADHD, you didn't have it as a child, and insomnia, difficulty falling and staying asleep. Welcome to the world of a busy brain. When you're stuck on the stress success cycle, your airport traffic control tower is like, I'm going to start malfunctioning. And if you keep going with those symptoms, physical disease will kick in.
I'm like, take me to church on this one right now, because the first thing that came up, especially when you were talking about like the meditation and the mindfulness, is even that, right? Like, okay, the blueberries don't work, the antioxidants, all this stuff that's been recommended for years. But even now, I look at people, and myself included until a couple of years ago, where even the mindfulness practices are becoming check boxes that
Yes.
increase the amount of stress because it's this thing to do.
It's a thing to do. Well, here's the thing. My world, it was I meditate, I exercise, I eat clean. They still have a busy brain score above 30. And we'll put the link to the free test in your show notes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so they're doing all the right things, or they're saying, I'm meditating. Am I doing it wrong? Because I don't feel the hope that you feel. I have warring conversations going on in my brain, and it's actually making the anxiety and difficulty focusing even worse.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you brought this up, because like those three symptoms, I'll label them, that like nailed me at a level that I can't even explain. Like nailed it. And it was like, and even now people on the podcast know this, but I'm 40 and I'm in the best
Mhm.
shape of my life, but I was 100 pounds heavier 18 months
Yeah.
ago. But on
I'm
paper,
so proud of you. Yeah.
everybody celebrated me. Oh, you're
Yeah.
crushing in business, you're doing blank. But I was living in those three. Like there was no turning it off. And like I would justify it. I'm like, well, I was a Marine for 13 years. I only slept like polyphasically and I survived, right? And so I was living on caffeine. I was low key, like in panic attack. My average heart rate was like 92 all day
I'm so
because
sorry.
I couldn't turn it off. I couldn't focus deeper than like what was directly in front of me. And then sleep was like non existent, and it almost killed me. And there's these patterns that are so celebrated. And so my first question, and by the way, for everybody listening, I'm going to highly recommend this. I'm going to say it now. Can you tell everybody your Instagram now so I can say it like
Yeah.
10 times?
I'm at Dr. Romie. Romie rhymes with homie, Romie. Dr. Romie, your homie, or your nagging auntie, whichever one you want.
I'll take it. I'll take it. And if you make me some butter chicken, it's game over and you're stuck with me
Okay, okay,
forever.
wait, George. We need to have a conversation right now. Hold the podcast, okay? Because comfort food is allowed on the Brain Shift Protocol. As a nutrition fanatic, you're going to be shocked. We're going to unpack that. But can I just say something as your like newly adopted sister,
Yeah.
y'all people? As your South Asian sister, please stop ordering butter chicken. Butter chicken is not a real dish in South Asia.
No, but it's so good for my inner fat
No,
kid.
No butter chicken. That is not a real dish from India. Like
Okay,
chicken
what's the
tikka,
best chicken dish?
chicken tikka masala,
I love that
chicken
too.
burger. I will cook for you the next time you're in Orlando, as long as you promise me you're not going to go in and be like, I'll have the butter chicken. Like it, like, woo, it's
Hey,
like my ancestors are screaming out of their
I'm
graves
an
right now.
I'll
Judgment Indian
I'll
aunties are like, who invented
I'll
butter
own I'll
chicken?
own that I'm an uncultured white guy. I'm just a cookbook author that has these cravings, and I'll own it. But I also will say that I was in Toronto a couple weeks ago, and not only did I get that, but I ate a lot of tikka masala, and it was
Yes,
so incredible. And
amazing.
so thank
Yeah.
you for taking me to church. Noted. And I don't want Romie, my homie, to throw a chocolate
Turn
at
into
me.
auntie again, to throw
Yeah,
in the auntie again. Hi, hi, stop ordering the butter chicken. You will hear my voice in your busy brain every time you go to an Indian restaurant. Oh my God, Dr. Romy. George, do not order butter chicken. Text Dr. Romy instead with the menu and she'll order for you. You're going to hear this every time you go to an Indian restaurant or open Uber Eats now.
literally don't put this past me, because everybody listening this knows when I travel again and I'm in an Indian restaurant, you're getting a DM from me on Instagram a couple
Absolutely.
hours before I go, and I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
girl, be my Romy homie. Tell me what I need to order to
I got
experience
you.
full life over
I
here.
got you. I
So,
got you. So in the back end of my book, we actually talk about comfort food and that's
mm,
important in healing a busy brain and burnout. And you have the recipe for my grandmother's lamb biryani in the back of the book and other loved ones' comfort foods and family recipes. Her lamb biryani, legendary. Like you could smell it cooking in the alley of our neighborhood. It would bring families together, people who were in a feud dating back to like ancestors. All of a sudden, the love in the biryani would heal it. So I kind of
mm,
learned how to make it during the pandemic. She's looking down upon us from heaven, Nani, you know? Um, and every one of us has a food like that. And
yeah,
so please know the next half of this pod is not me coming on as a world renowned brain doctor and integrative medicine doctor putting people on a diet. That actually, and I apologize to you, I don't want to disrespect your New York Times bestselling cookbook.
no, we
That
won't.
actually is hurting the busy brain, is
Yep.
putting people on a diet, on a cleanse, on a calorie limiting thing. I'm also a chief wellness officer of over
Hmm.
12,000 employees. We
Hmm.
firmly believe that like everyone should be invited to the table. It shouldn't be like little George and Romy hiding in our middle schools from the bullies and the mean people. We I want to be a chief wellness officer where everybody belongs, whether you're paleo, vegan, vegetarian, carb lover, chocoholic, the I'm so busy I just grab whatever the hell was in the refrigerator. Like, all of us belong at the table. But the key is schedule your comfort food. So if you're going on a wonderful vacation, if it is your child's birthday party, eat the cake. Don't let them see you making a face because it has carbs in it. Celebrate
Hmm.
your baby. You know, a family recipe, your country of origin, whatever it is, schedule that, and then
Hmm.
we'll dig into the biohacks on how to what nutrition plays a role and how to
And
alter that.
And I'm going to add this real quick, because I'm actually not paleo anymore. I eat everything. I healed my celiac disease because I got the
Mhm.
metal taken out of my mouth. But as somebody who was bulimic for 14 years and struggled with eating disorders, that deep level of restriction on the nervous system for me, I
Yeah.
now don't measure. I don't really do anything except eat based intuitively, and I feel the best because there's not this
Yes.
anxiety associated with my
Yes.
food, which is one of those
Yes.
main symptoms. And so
Yes. Yes.
I
And
want to,
eating from intuition is different than stress eating.
yes, huge,
Yes.
huge.
Comfort food is I'm going to celebrate my child. It is their birthday. I'm going to have a cupcake or slice of cake and ice cream. Comfort food, stress eating is I'm going to finish that entire rest of pint of ice cream to eat my feelings.
Hmm. Hmm.
Mhm.
One of my most famous quotes back when I was a food blogger, and this one tickled people. I said, "You're not in a monogamous relationship with food. There's no cheating, only choices."
Oh, I love that.
And
That's
that
such a
was
great quote.
one of the big ones that helped me,
Yeah.
because I was even inducing further that stress cycle, because every choice that I made, I then made wrong. Then the
Yeah.
anxiety spiraled more.
Yeah.
Then my brain was in reaction over and over. And so I wanna unpack the brain score real quick, because I want everybody listening to this to go take the quiz to get their brain score, because I love, like, even at the beginning of the show, we're talking about how everybody's unique and everybody's different, right? And so this busy brain, can you just kind of unpack for us like what the busy brain is
Yeah.
and what this brain score tells us and how we can use this
Mhm.
in our life?
Let's do that. Like, I'm going to just have a Dr. Auntie moment with everybody listening to the pod and ask you, do you wake up in the morning and you need caffeine to get going? You're going to tell George and Dr. Romie it was only a venti latte with oat milk, but if the barista put in whole milk, you're going to be bitter with a capital B all day. But really, you're also chugging energy drinks during the day, or maybe
Yeah.
taking an extra Adderall or Ritalin. Then you're like, I'm sitting in front of multiple computer screens because I am an entrepreneur on fire, and you can't focus on a single task. Every time the Slack channel or email channel goes off, you're like, whoa, stop the podcast. This feels like a code red emergency, and you're anxiously analyzing. Your to-do list is controlling you, not your schedule. It's so exhausting. You're like, I remember the podcast with Dr. Romie. I'm going to shut everything down at 6, maybe 6:17, and stand on self-care. But now you need a glass of wine or 3 to take the edge off. And if it isn't alcohol, it's some overpriced supplement from an Instagram influencer. And then you're going to stand on sleep tonight. Sleep is the status symbol of success for professionals. You heard it from Dr. Auntie Romie, and you put your head down on the pillow, and there's 72 warring conversations going on in your brain, and you can't fall asleep. So you get up on your Instagram and you start scrolling and trolling, thinking, oh, this is making me so happy. I'm laughing at these TikToks. You finally fall asleep and you wake up somewhere between 2 and 4 a.m. and decide to knock out a few emails before the workday gets in. You have a busy brain. And that's almost every entrepreneur I know. And we mask it, because I am an entrepreneur, as saying, oh, I'm just highly productive, I'm creative. Your days in the Marines, and we call medicine, parallel to the military, the sleep deprivation of polyphasic sleeping. We give ourselves all sorts of excuses. That's a busy brain. So I want to know your brain score. You go and you answer 20 simple questions on the busy brain test, like, I have difficulty falling asleep at times. Think for the last 2 weeks, rarely, sometimes, or always. You're going to get a score. If your score is above a 30, you have a busy brain. If it's above a 60, you're trending towards busy brain with burnout. And we're going to email you the entire protocol of what to do. That's in my book, The Busy Brain Cure.
Thank you. And I'm going to say this, and trust me, like, I feel nothing but pride as well as relief knowing that this is here, because the true secret is, like, everyone's like, how'd you lose the weight? How are you so healthy now? All intensity went out the window. I started sleeping 8 to 9 hours a night, but prioritizing the rituals and the containers around it, reducing the triggers. I cut out all caffeine. I cut out
Ooh,
all the stimulants,
ooh.
and I am as clean as a whistle. But, you nailed some things now, because, like, just so everybody knows, like, an average cup of coffee has like 80 milligrams of caffeine, and one of those energy drinks now that I'm seeing out here that kids are
2 to
drinking,
400
2
milligrams.
to 400
I know.
milligrams. And I
And it's
am,
bad caffeine.
yes, it's
It's not like, the caffeine from green tea, derived in a matcha, or even organic coffee. A little bit is great for your brain in the morning.
mhm.
But yeah, it's about sleep and all the rituals. And we go through that in week 2 of the protocol, Brain Shift Protocol, which is the cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia techniques you're alluding to. But I also want to restore the circadian rhythm, because, as you mentioned, it's tied to 50 hormones that govern everything in our brain and body. Your satiety, your appetite are included. For the men in the audience, your sex hormones as
Yep.
well. All of that is related. And so it's so important that we, get that. And so we do have supplements we recommend that you take to help reset the circadian rhythm, with along with getting to sleep. All of that'll come to your inbox when you take the busy brain test. It's like, you and I were talking before we started the interview. Like, I did this book because I care. I have
Yeah.
suffered. You will read my suffering and healing journey throughout the book, the teachers that came along the way, and then other executives who did the protocol, right? You're going to read about that. We share that so candidly with you. So, one, I'm not suffering alone. Two, even doing one of the 8 weeks brain shifts and continuing it creates a massive impact on your brain. And I have so much I want to unpack with you of your history that you told me. I'm going to pause and let you ask me the question.
It's okay. You can drive as well. This is your podcast more than it is mine. I do want to ask something specifically because like that was a big shift for me, and I share this with a lot of people. I don't really do caffeine right now. Occasionally I do when I travel because most people have crappy chemically detoxed decaf coffee, and I'm pretty bougie when it comes to that stuff.
Same.
But I do wait.
Wait, if you're really bougie, you're not going to order butter chicken again.
I got you. I got you. You can tag me all day. Like I have nothing but humility with this. I'm just an uncultured white dude with no swag when it comes to
Listen,
ethnic dishes.
I'm an uncultured daughter of South Asian immigrants, Americans. So there's a lot of Caucasian traditions I don't know about either. So we can teach each other.
Yeah,
Deal?
in,
Yes.
and I will make you the most beautiful, delicious stack of chocolate chip pancakes because that's my comfort food. That is my love language. Like
Oh,
I have
deal.
traveled the world and eaten them everywhere.
I want chocolate chip pancakes because listen, I was a STEMinist growing up, and my parents had to fight for me to be in like chemistry class. And the teachers were like, she's a girl, she should be in home economics class. And I never learned how to make pancakes.
Oh my God, they're my love language.
Yes.
Even the cover of my former cookbook, I like had to fight to keep the pancakes on the cover. And I was like, no, I'm
Name your
putting pancakes on
pancakes.
the cover, like the end.
Yeah.
They just happen to be good for you. But one of the things I don't even have a cup of coffee till 3 to 4 hours after I've been awake. I have probably, half a gallon of water. I've already moved my body. Is there legitimate science to that? Because one of the things that I was taught, especially around sleep and circadian rhythm, is that really the first choices I make when I wake up that day are what sets my circadian rhythm to help me sleep that night. And so for me, like I go barefoot outside. If it's dark in Montana, I use my red light to help wake up and stimulate vitamin D. But is there like from the doctor side, is that like evidence based?
Yeah. Yes and no. Remember, it's kind of like the
Mm,
shirts you and I are wearing, or our hairstyles. No two brains are alike. And we know that everybody's circadian rhythm is governed by your genetics, your nurture, and your nature. So that isn't true for everyone. I'm here, George, and I'll apologize, not for you. You're doing the clean things and healthy things, and you're in that category of need peak performance. I'm here for like the when we did this busy brain test on 17,000
mhm,
people in a 2 year period, 80% of people scored above a 30. I'm here for them. So for those people, it is really hard in the morning to wake up
mhm,
and not have caffeine. I say I really look at what fasting insulin levels are and a fasting blood sugar and what a serum cortisol level is in the morning.
mhm,
In week 7 of the brain shift protocol, we ask you to go get labs. And this is the best part that we did is because I work inside corporate America with this protocol and we have to work in traditional US insurances. I didn't do what my traditional integrative functional medicine colleagues do. And there's all these really important but esoteric labs
mm.
that insurance won't cover. Most of all of the labs are covered by traditional US insurance because I wanted this protocol affordable to people. And you and I both know, because I
Yep.
went to an integrative medicine doctor to get healthy, you pay thousands of dollars just to get the labs checked,
Yeah.
not even the doctor's visit. And we need Busy Brain Cure to be accessible to all. And so this is it. So get your labs drawn. So to go back and answer your question, I'm glad that works for you to wait 4 hours. For most people, they say 60 to 90 minutes before you have caffeine. If you have a score above a 40, you're probably going to need caffeine right away. I don't judge you because we're going to go through the first 4 weeks of the protocol, which is week 1, do the busy brain test and set an intention. What do you hope for? Week 2, the 7-day sleep challenge. Week 3, we add
Yes.
in digital detox. Week 4, in place of meditation mindfulness, we add in sound healing. By those first few weeks, you're going to naturally see you're sleeping better, you're less stress eating, and the need for caffeine to survive the stress success cycle is going to diminish. So I am a person that I do require some coffee in the morning, not immediately,
Mhm.
some caffeine, and that's okay,
I
right?
love that.
I also know it's good for my brain, good for my
And
health,
I
and for
just
me
want to
personally when my
celebrate too
labs
the
are.
titration because
But I'm
I
not
even heard like cognitive
medicating on it
behavioral therapy
throughout the
was a
day.
big, big breakthrough for me after EMDR. But there's this undertone that I keep hearing, and I love how much you pattern interrupt
Yes.
the industry that most people are used to when it comes to doctors or medicine or fixing this one size fits all. And really, the undertone I hear is
Yeah.
simplification and one thing at a time, like really focusing on earning the right and planting these new seeds consistently,
Yeah.
and I
Yes.
absolutely love that,
Yes.
because even the first four parts that you just broke down, I was like, no, that's
Yes.
exactly like how
Yes.
I did it. Like it was
Yes.
like this gets done, and then it's like I earned the right to complicate it or to get deeper and deeper into it, and
Step one, step
yeah.
two. Yes. And try something new. They're called brain shifts, and we studied them and to make sure that we did
Hmm.
them in the right sequence. So notice in the first 4 weeks, I said nothing about what you're eating. The only thing we asked when people come
Yeah.
back and we run this in groups is that you eat and schedule your comfort food and let's celebrate the comfort food you ate. I want to hear all about it, right? And so that's kind of the way it is. So the busy brain cure is the 8 week plan to find focus, tame anxiety, and sleep again. It literally is an 8 week protocol. If your score is above 30, go straight
Yeah.
to chapter 10. And we break it down for you week by week what to do.
I love this.
And then because of the labs, it becomes personalized, George. And then, we unpack because when you have neuroinflammation, busy brain, and the airport traffic
Hmm.
control tower,
I also
some
love
people's
the
hormones are going to
the
be off, other people's
individualized
markers of
approach,
inflammation.
because
We need to
that's one
correct
of my biggest
that.
challenges that I have right now is everyone's like, go in this box, go in this box. Just so everybody on the
Yes.
podcast knows, I'm just going to say this right now. Get ready to be for me to be annoying when I finish this book in entirety, because I'm not going to shut up about it. I promise you, I'm not going to shut up about it. Yeah,
I'll
say
come
it.
back. Okay, can I tell you one thing that is just intuitively bugging me that I have to just vomit out? Okay, for you is you said something earlier about adrenal fatigue and 18 months needing rest. Thank you for that honesty because men don't get to hear this modeled for themselves often enough. I'm working with high achieving men like yourself, highly successful entrepreneurs, male athletes or male C-suite executives. I
Hmm.
think it's not all just adrenal fatigue. Most of them come to me because they have low T and it could be fueling the busy brain. Forget the sexual
Yep.
dysfunction. Busy brain comes too, but make sure you got a full thyroid panel.
It was.
Because if it
It
took
was.
18 months to heal adrenal fatigue, I'm guessing that thyroid got missed. Okay. Yeah, I'm just like, and I'm screaming because in most of my pod interviews, I'm talking about thyroid and women and my journey and my thyroid being missed. And by the way, if your thyroid was okay a year ago and you
Yeah.
got more than a 30 on your busy brain test, please go back and ask the doctor to check it. It can change when you have a busy brain. So please get the thyroid, and men too. Like, I do not allow any man I'm working for just to come to me and say, I have a low T. What do I need to do? I'm like, oh, no, 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 no. Here are all the rest of the hormones in your
Yep.
body. We
Yeah, you
need
nailed
to
it. You
check.
you nailed it. And
That is
and
like an
just,
end
in
result of
full
something else
disclosure,
going on in most cases.
no, will you stop saying sorry?
And I'm
I'm
so
gonna
sorry to
go
get into your
white guy
medical thing, but it
aggressive
has
on
been
you and be like,
bothering me. You
stop. No,
said it.
like
I was like,
the
I need to do it. Oh, yeah, thank
this
you.
is the truth. Like, and
Thank
I had
you.
so
Thank
much
you for
pride as
reminding
that
me
like
that. Thank
type
you for
A that
reminding
I
me
was
that.
like,
Receipt.
I'm gonna fix this myself. And I read Adrenal Fatigue in the 21st Century, and then it took me to the point where I almost broke before I actually
Yeah.
asked for help. And it was the combination. Not
Mm-hmm.
only was it, reverse cortisol production, elevated, all of that stuff, my
So sad.
testosterone was in the floor. And then it was my thyroid, and that's what took so long. And I was genuinely trying
Yep.
to aggressively check boxes to get out of
Yeah.
it, and I was depleting myself of nutrients, and I was doing all the actions, but it was just blind. And, then I started to wake up, and, I got to have hair tests and had heavy metal poisoning
Yeah.
on top of all of that. And I can't even speak to this enough. And I also get to thank you too, because you nailed
Oh
something
my
here, is that
gosh.
a lot of this stuff has been unapproachable for people. It's out of the bucket. It's like, yeah, oh, for sure.
For men especially. For women, women get ignored in the healthcare system. I mean, but for men, and I this is why I was so excited to talk to you today, George. I know both men and women listen to your podcast, but you reach a lot of high achieving men. And just as your Dr. Auntie here on the podcast, like, please, like, there is a lab slip inside chapter 16. It is on the companion website to the book. My hope is that everyone in America, I mean, the book is global in 8 languages, but
Hmm.
everyone takes that lab slip, and the brain shift lab slip is showing up in doctors' offices across the country. And if your doctor questions it, give them a copy of the book. They will open to the end of the book and see over 400
Yeah.
references. I have doctors reach out to me routinely. They themselves now are checking these labs on themselves. So
Yeah,
please,
of course. And for
please
everybody,
do
I'm going
that.
to
Like,
have all this in
I
the show
can't
notes
say it
as
enough.
well. And
And
I'll
thank
make
you
this
for
really easy
sharing
for
your
you. If you
journey on
DM me on
this.
Instagram and say Romie, my homie, I will just send you the direct link. But it's drromie.com. So it's Dr. DR and then ROMIE.com. And right at the top of the website, you'll see Busy Brain and you'll see the test there and the quiz there and all the resources there. But this isn't an invitation for shelf help. This is I would fly through my laptop and kick you in the shins and type it in for you if you don't at least give yourself the options to see what's there, because I operated blindly for so long and it took so many years of suffering. And yeah, yeah,
I'm so sorry. Same. I mean, I was operating blind, and I'm like, it was like, years of you and I healing, and then me doing the research to say, how can I help other people not go through this? And then first researching the concept of busy brain. This is real. Here it is. Then putting together the cure and researching that. This is here for you.
mhm,
And by the way, if your primary care doctor says, I ain't going to do the labs, we partnered with Rupa Health. And
yep.
so you click the link on my website, you get the Brain Shift Labs for just a few $100s, like literally at a fraction of the cost of what it takes in an integrative
Yep.
functional medicine doctor. And
And
a
this is why
board
I'm so
certified
blessed that we
doctor
have the
in
internet
your
now and we
state
have
will
access to
read
these
those
things
lab
that used
studies
to be
for you.
gated
Yeah.
that didn't fit into the box. And it's absolutely huge. And
Yes. Yes.
there's just so many things.
Right.
I want to ask you a question because I know, like, number one, go get your busy brain test for sure. And I know there's a lot of individualized approaches to these things, but as entrepreneurs specifically, we're surrounded by this, right? The endless scroll, the endless dopamine hits, all those things that happen. What are some, like, tangible things that people can bring into their life today, like in the interim process, that will help them navigate these things and really find that peace?
Yeah. 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 Look, we're in a digitally connected world. If you're an online entrepreneur, even more so, we're going to share this with my audience. So a lot of people are flexible, working remote, and we're in front of digital devices for professional and social reasons. Deal. I'm not that outdated of an auntie. While in my fantasy world, public libraries would become sexy again and we would read books, the likelihood of that happening is pretty slim. So what I really want is people to do these. We list these in the chapter 12 with the digital detox, but there's digital detox advice during the day and at night. There's 30 to 60 minutes before bedtime. It is all devices down. All devices down. Divorce your digital devices. Find romantic connection if you're blessed to have a partner. And I
Mhm.
don't. I have my dog. He goes out for an extra walk. We do house chores, anything so that I don't pick up the laptop until there is a partner in the house, right? So, to that. But the other thing during the day is we're actually asking corporate teams, and I want entrepreneurs to do the same. If you scheduled a 30-minute meeting, end at 25 minutes. If you scheduled an hour-long meeting, end at 55 0. Take that 5 or 10 minutes and step away from the scene of the crime, which is your desk and your screens. The scene of the crime is your screen. Step away and really do that and do something that is
Yes.
changing what you see, taste, smell, touch. If it's quickly even chopping vegetables in the kitchen, or if you have a 10-minute break, walking outside, whatever, that alone was the number one factor to improve mental well-being of an overall team in corporate America, was shortening meetings and having meeting free days, where even if you're on a computer, you're not having to do a meeting and all you're doing is catching up on your work. So I mean, those are two simple things, But I'm here with the brain shift, which is
Hmm.
do this one
I'm a
thing
big
for
fan. My
maximum
numero uno
impact and
is
crowd out all the other noise.
constantly pattern interrupting my brain state. Like after every podcast, like I'm staring at the mountains, but shoes come off. I go stand in the grass and look at the horses, and I give myself like 5 minutes.
Mhm.
I don't care if it's rain. I don't care if it's 20 degrees outside. I'm like,
Nice.
let's go.
Nice.
Well,
See,
I
George, you're
know.
lucky. If I stand out in the rain, this hair is going to get frizzy and I can't do the next pod interview. But but I go and I stand under an umbrella and I watch my dog and I don't take a phone out and I see the world through
Yeah.
my dog and I notice he calms down and I calm down and there's just this like bond, this like, if he's stopping to sniff the grass, which he always does, even though he's marked that territory 728 times,
Hmm.
I stop and just inhale the grass and just be present. Be present. In Sufism, we have this saying that like there is no order in living beings. A blade of grass, the dog, the limb of a tree, a human. We are
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
one being. We're
There was a
all
quote that
living
one of
beings.
my
And so
God-fearing
just be
shamans said
one
to me
with
many
that.
years ago that changed my life. And it relates to busy brains. And he said, your biggest challenge is you've never been quiet enough to hear God's whispers. And from that day on, I've been bullish on a stillness practice. Like I genuinely practice
Amen.
boredom every day to where I'm like, I'm going to go sit in a chair unattached and flex that muscle. And
Yeah.
one of the things that
And
I
schedule it.
really, really
Schedule
love,
it.
especially that I've heard underneath all
Yep.
of
And
this, which
schedule it.
feels
Yeah.
so approachable, is this micro habits and these small size bites of really buying our future self back now by making this approachable and doing that. And can you just talk about that for a little bit?
Mhm.
Because I know like in the book it's broken down, but I also feel like, and this is going back into the world of food blogging, one of the biggest mistakes that I ever saw is like I was a paleo food blogger and I was like, hey, you might want to try this. It worked for me. But people would go throw out their entire pantry and then go restock it with $1,000 of items that they never had. Or they're like, hey, I haven't been to the gym in 6 months. I'm going to go an hour a day for the next week. And I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. Like,
No.
mm-hmm.
It has to be, the steps you break down. You and I are talking about atomic
Yeah.
habits, right? But I did the research for you. So you didn't have to figure
Mm-hmm.
out what are the habits I have to adapt for sleep. We researched the most impactful habits. And over 1,000 executives went through this protocol and we fine tuned it. So we just laid it out for you in a menu. And the best part is you do one a week and you kind of let them build on each other. And at the end of 8 weeks, you pick one to continue. And that one tiny thing will
Mm.
change your life and bring
I'm making
hope
notes
back
on my
in.
side right now
And
because
that is the
I'm going to
magic
do
of
a
a brain
solo
shift.
podcast just on your book because I'm going to be so bullish on this for everybody because I feel like you just gave me. I'll have. Oh, you're coming back.
Oh my God, I love it. I will come back. I will
You're
come back.
coming back. The end.
I
I
will
mean,
be like the
that was
annoying
happening
auntie
unless
that'll
you
be
get a
like, George,
restraining order
auntie
against
wants to
me.
come
So that
back
was
for
already
chai.
that
Yeah.
was already in the cards. Yeah, I speak love languages. Chocolate chip pancakes are perfect, and so
And I also want pancakes.
yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now we're in.
Yeah.
So
And I'm
So
going to cook you
here's what
some
I want
good
to do
curry
because we have
chicken.
to land this
Yes.
plane and I'm going to have
Yeah.
you back for sure. And
Deal.
for everybody listening, let me just give you some tangible action items and reminders here before we wrap the show. Number one, at minimum, tune in to Romie the Homie's ecosystem. Okay. And I am such a big fan of Romie the Homie. Like that is your moniker from this Auntie Romie the Homie. Like I'm totally in. So her Instagram is Dr. Romie, and I'm just going to
I
say this
love that.
bullishly.
I
Please
love
do
it.
yourself the favor and arm yourself with the information to start making adjustments because no matter where you are, and even if you're thriving in a place like me, as soon as this podcast ends, I'm taking the test. And I've already texted it to 4 people since we've been on the podcast. I know. I
You're a
know. Well,
good
I dropped it to
multitasker,
one
which, by the way,
person
you're
and I
not
was
supposed
like,
to do.
share
The
this to
sign of a
these
busy brain,
few
no
people when I
judgment
was
from
at a
Auntie,
point
but
because I
yeah,
had to
thank
close
you.
the loop
Yeah.
in my brain. And so drromie.com for the brain
Nice.
test.
Okay.
And I'm going to bullishly recommend this book, The Busy Brain Cure. And it is everywhere. You will be hearing more about it. I will be breaking it down and I'm going to dive into it in its full entirety. And so just to ask you one more question, and it's a short one. everybody's listening to this for 50 minutes or so, but if you had to give them one piece of tangible wisdom or advice to kind of tattoo on their soul to take with them for the rest of their lives, like what would be Romie the homie or Auntie's piece of advice or wisdom for them to carry through to really, really help them?
I want to share what I wish someone had told me when I was sitting in the surgeon's office and I literally could feel hope departing my soul. Is that, my friends, your brain is not broken, your mind is not a mess, and hope did not depart your soul. It just starts
Oh,
with one brain shift.
I couldn't
And
have put a
today,
prettier
George
bow
and
on
I
that.
are here with you. You are
Thank you,
not
Sid.
alone.
That made me tear up. So thank you for that. And that is something that I wish I heard too. And so thank you for sharing that now at a deep, deep, deep level. And so for everybody listening, I will make this as easy as I can. Everything will be in the show notes. If you need anything personally and you don't feel like clicking them, send me a DM on Instagram and I will send them to you to make it easy. Her. And at minimum, slide into her DMs. You have her permission to fill her bucket when she's not in her digital detox time and let her know what resonated, what land, because I can genuinely feel this. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for
Yes.
being so accessible and so approachable and putting this work out into the world. It's an absolute honor. And so we will have you back. We will be in touch. And for everybody listening, this has been another episode of the Mind of George Show. And so you will either see me in the next episode or you'll hear me in your earballs. But either way, remember that relationships will always beat algorithms. And in this case, especially the one with yourself and that busy brain of yours that you get to grab a hold of and start making changes because it's not broken. Don't lose hope. And it's just about making small choices every day to give yourself the superpowers that you deserve to have. We love you. We'll see you soon.